Life is often seen as a journey full of struggles, endless pursuits, and fleeting joys. But have we ever paused to reflect on the true essence of this life? In this video, I will take you through profound lessons shared by Sadhguru on how we can manage the most powerful force within us, our mind and energy, and how doing so can transform the way we experience life. Let's begin by understanding the true purpose behind life, which is not to chase endless goals but to truly experience it with purpose and joy. The chemical factory within us, the greatest and most sophisticated chemical factory on this planet, is not in labs or factories but within each of us. The mind and body, if properly managed, can create any experience we wish. Sadhguru emphasizes the importance of managing our inner systems, our faculties of perception. We often let our energy go to waste by engaging in activities that dull our faculties. Take a moment to think about this. Have you ever noticed how you feel after a good night's rest compared to when you're exhausted? The energy levels are different, right? Now imagine managing this energy constantly. By doing so, you can enhance your experiences and even raise your capacity to deal with challenges. Personalinsicht. In my own journey of self-awareness, I've realized that we often take our physical and mental energy for granted. I remember when I first became aware of my energy levels, it changed the way I approached tasks. Now, I try to manage it with care, just like a good manager would with resources. The endless pursuit of goals. Sadhguru humorously points out how our lives are spent chasing goals. First, we want a job, then a promotion, then wealth, then status, and the cycle continues. However, once we achieve these, we are left with a deep sense of emptiness because our true needs are not met by these external acquisitions. Example story. Let's look at an example of a person who works tirelessly to become a top executive in a company. After years of hard work, they achieve their dream job. But once they sit in that office, they realize that the happiness they expected hasn't arrived. They get more stressed and burnt out. The question is, was the struggle worth it if the goal only led to more stress and less joy? This pattern of endless pursuit is often a result of ignorance about the deeper purpose of life. We're conditioned to believe that achievement equals fulfillment, but true fulfillment comes from within. Time and energy, the true currency of life. Time is the one resource we can never get back, and energy is the one thing that drives us. Life, essentially, is a combination of time and energy. Yet, we often fail to manage these effectively. Sadhguru asks, what do you want to do with your time and energy? The key here is to recognize that life is finite, and how we use our energy determines the depth of our experience. Personalinsicht. I've personally found that once I started being more intentional with my time and energy, my life felt fuller. It wasn't about working harder or faster, it was about working with more mindfulness. This shift has helped me achieve more in less time and with more joy. The joyful life. Sadhguru presents an interesting observation. The more joyful we are, the faster time seems to pass. When we're miserable, life feels long, and we are constantly counting down to something better. But when we're joyful, life feels short, and we savor every moment. Example story. Consider two friends, one of whom is always happy and the other is constantly complaining about life. The first friend's life seems to fly by with memorable experiences and a sense of gratitude, while the second feels like they're just going through the motions. The difference? Joy brings depth to our lives, while misery only drains us. This is why joy is essential to living a fulfilling life. It's not about avoiding challenges, but about facing them with a positive mindset. Enhancing faculties. One of the key insights from Sadhguru's teachings is the importance of enhancing our faculties. These faculties, sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, are gateways to experiencing life. By enhancing these faculties, we deepen our experience of the world. Personalinsicht. I've practiced enhancing my faculties by becoming more mindful in everyday activities. For example, when I eat, I try to fully engage with the taste and texture of the food. When I listen, I pay close attention to every detail. These practices make me feel more alive and connected to the present moment. The trap of substance use. Many people look to substances to enhance their experiences, but Sadhguru highlights how this actually lowers our faculties. Substances like marijuana or alcohol can make us feel good temporarily, but they don't enhance the clarity or depth of our experiences. Example story. I recall a time when I tried to use external substances to cope with stress. While they gave me short-term relief, they also dulled my senses and clarity. After realizing this, I chose to rely on inner practices like meditation and mindful breathing, which have led to much more profound changes in my life. The role of awareness in life. Finally, Sadhguru reminds us that life is limited. We are all heading towards death, and how we use our time and energy will determine the quality of our lives. Most people live in ignorance, unaware of this truth, and end up wasting their time on trivial pursuits. Example story. There was once a man who spent his life chasing after wealth. He worked relentlessly, and by the end of his life, he had amassed great wealth. But when he looked back, he realized that he had missed out on the simple joys of life, spending time with loved ones, appreciating nature, and truly living. Conclusion. Sadhguru's teachings offer a profound reminder that life is not about what we achieve externally, but about how we experience it. The key to a fulfilling life lies in managing our inner faculties and energy, living joyfully, and being aware of the finite nature of time. By understanding and embracing these principles, we can transform our lives and truly live with purpose. Leçon Somari. Life is a combination of time and energy. Manage them wisely. Joy and awareness are key to a fulfilling life. Enhance your faculties to truly experience life. Avoid relying on external substances for fulfillment. Recognize the finite nature of life and live with purpose. The path of liberation. Understanding suffering and the nature of existence. In Buddhist philosophy, the core of human existence is tied to the understanding of suffering. The Buddha's teachings revolve around the Four Noble Truths, the first of which acknowledges the inevitability of suffering in life. This suffering, according to Buddhism, arises from attachment, desire, and ignorance. Sadhguru's teachings align closely with this principle, pointing out that most of our struggles are created by our desires and expectations. The root of our discontent is often our attachment to how we think things should be, rather than how they truly are. Recognizing this is the first step toward liberation. Liberation from the cycles of endless craving and suffering. Story. The Buddha and the Young Woman. One famous Buddhist story illustrates the power of understanding suffering. There was once a young woman named Gautami, who lost her only child. Grief-stricken, she went to the Buddha seeking a remedy to bring her child back to life. The Buddha, seeing her pain, told her to gather mustard seeds from a family that had never experienced death. She eagerly went from house to house, only to find that every family had experienced death in some form. In the end, Gautami realized that death is a universal experience, and that attachment to impermanent things causes suffering. From a Buddhist perspective, this story is a profound teaching on the nature of impermanence. The Buddha didn't offer a magical cure to Gautami's grief. Instead, he helped her see that suffering is a part of the human condition, and that the attachment to our loved ones, while natural, causes us to suffer because nothing in this world is permanent. Personalinsicht. This story has always reminded me of the transient nature of life. I have found solace in understanding that suffering is an inherent part of existence, but it is also an opportunity for growth. By accepting the impermanence of life, we free ourselves from the constant struggle for control and begin to live more fully in the present. The importance of compassion and loving-kindness. In Buddhist teachings, compassion, karu, and loving-kindness, metta, are fundamental virtues. The Buddha taught that the cultivation of compassion is not only essential for the well-being of others, but also for our own peace and happiness. By practicing compassion, we can release ourselves from the chains of self-centered thinking and open our hearts to the suffering of others. Sadhguru also emphasizes the importance of compassion, particularly in the context of our relationships with others. He believes that true joy comes when we are able to move beyond our egos and develop a deeper connection with the world around us. Story. The story of the Buddha and Angulimala. One of the most powerful stories in Buddhism is that of Angulimala, a notorious bandit who had killed many people. His name, which means finger necklace, was given to him because he wore a necklace made of the fingers of his victims. Angulimala believed that killing would bring him power, but he was deeply suffering inside. One day, Angulimala encountered the Buddha, who was walking peacefully on a path. Angulimala, thinking he could kill the Buddha as one more victim, chased him. But no matter how fast he ran, the Buddha remained ahead, walking calmly. Eventually, the Buddha turned to him and said, "I have stopped, Angulimala, but you are still running." This profound statement made Angulimala realize the futility of his violent life. He fell to his knees and begged for forgiveness. The Buddha, filled with compassion, accepted him into the monastic order, where Angulimala later became a follower, seeking enlightenment. This story teaches us the power of compassion and transformation. The Buddha's compassion led to the transformation of Angulimala, a man consumed by violence. It shows that even the most hardened hearts can change when exposed to kindness and love. Personal insight. When I reflect on this story, it teaches me the importance of patience and kindness in all interactions. It is easy to judge people based on their actions, but true compassion comes when we see the suffering behind those actions and offer a path to healing instead of judgment. The art of mindfulness and living in the present. Buddhism places a great emphasis on mindfulness, which is the practice of being fully present and aware of the moment. Mindfulness allows us to free ourselves from the clutter of the past and the worries of the future. By being present, we can truly experience the richness of life as it unfolds, rather than being trapped by our thoughts and distractions. Sadhguru's teachings also align with this practice, encouraging us to become aware of our inner and outer worlds and to be conscious of the way we engage with them. Mindfulness is not just about meditation, it's about cultivating a sense of awareness throughout all aspects of our lives. Story: The Monk and the Woman in the Rain. One well-known story that illustrates the practice of mindfulness comes from the Zen Buddhist tradition. A monk and his disciple were traveling during a rainstorm when they came across a woman who was unable to cross a flooded stream. The disciple, caught up in the teachings of non-touch, hesitated to help, as touching a woman was considered improper. However, the monk immediately picked the woman up and carried her across the stream. Once they had crossed, the monk set her down, and they continued their journey in silence. After some time, the disciple finally spoke up, asking the monk why he had touched the woman. The monk replied, "I put her down at the stream, but you are still carrying her." This story emphasizes the importance of living in the present moment and letting go of unnecessary attachments. The disciple's thoughts about the past and his judgment were the cause of his suffering, whereas the monk's mindfulness allowed him to act with compassion without hesitation. Personal insight. This story teaches me how easy it is to be caught up in judgments and past experiences. I found that when I practice mindfulness, I can let go of old stories and assumptions that no longer serve me. It allows me to be more present with people and situations, bringing peace into my life. The ultimate goal: enlightenment and the end of suffering. Buddhism teaches that the ultimate goal of life is to achieve enlightenment, nirvana, which is the state of freedom from suffering, desire, and ignorance. This is not a place or a destination, but a state of being where one experiences peace, clarity, and ultimate liberation. The Buddha's journey toward enlightenment is an example of the transformation that is possible for anyone who seeks it. His path is not about renouncing life, but about understanding its true nature and letting go of the attachments that cause suffering. Sadhguru emphasizes that enlightenment is not something reserved for monks or spiritual masters. It is available to everyone who is willing to face the challenges of life with awareness and commitment. Story: The Buddha's Enlightenment under the Bodhi Tree. Perhaps the most iconic story in Buddhism is that of the Buddha's own enlightenment. After years of searching for answers, the Buddha meditated under the Bodhi tree, vowing not to move until he had discovered the truth. After a night of deep meditation, he realized the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. He became the Buddha, the awakened one, and spent the rest of his life sharing his wisdom with others. This story is a powerful reminder that enlightenment is not about escaping from the world, but about awakening to the truth of existence and living with wisdom, compassion, and equanimity. Personal insight. The story of the Buddha's enlightenment reminds me of the power of persistence and commitment. It's easy to get distracted by the challenges of life, but true transformation comes from dedicating ourselves to the practice of self-awareness, no matter how difficult the journey may be. Conclusion: living with purpose and awareness. The teachings of Buddhism offer profound wisdom on how we can navigate the challenges of life and find lasting peace. By understanding the nature of suffering, cultivating compassion, practicing mindfulness, and striving for enlightenment, we can live lives of greater purpose and meaning. Sadhguru's teachings reinforce this path, showing us that true happiness comes not from external achievements, but from the mastery of our inner world. Through the stories of the Buddha, we see that transformation is possible for anyone who is willing to let go of their attachments and embrace the present moment with an open heart. Lesson summary: understand the impermanence of life and the nature of suffering. Practice compassion and mindfulness to transform suffering into wisdom. Recognize that enlightenment is the state of inner freedom from desire and suffering. Dedicate yourself to living with awareness, purpose, and compassion.